people are going to think that I'm just saying this team because it's our show. But I think another team that's absolutely going to be ringing the phones is the Detroit Lions. Again, you look at that formula, potentially elite young players combined with draft capital, combined with a need to compete. The Lions are right there. And I know, like, Aidan Hutchinson with Micah Parsons, it would just be unfair.
That would be...
Like, Aidan Hutchinson was on track for who knows how many sacks. Micah Parsons and him combined, they could both get 20 for all I know. You would run out of opportunities to sack the quarterback before those guys would run out of sacks. But you've got a player I think the Cowboys would be really excited to add in Terry and Arnold, right? He's a promising young cornerback. Cornerback is probably the biggest position of need on the Cowboys. Again, I think if you're the Lions, you're ready to compete now. I know you've drafted well historically, but you simply do not need first round picks. You've got the cap space to add him this year. You can move money around into future years. And look, at a certain point, if you can throw in another player too, right? You could throw in Jameson Williams if you want. You could throw in Campbell as a linebacker. Like, the Lions have a ton of really strong young pieces. Look, you can shrug and say, do you really want to give up Terry and Arnold and Jack Campbell? What's that going to do?
No. I'm trying to run it through my mind. No, I'm trying to run through my mind here. What? Because, I mean, you're throwing around Terry and Arnold was a first round pick for Detroit. Jameson Williams just had 1,000 yards. Jack Campbell's an emerging linebacker. I'm trying to think at what point here, because Micah Parsons and Aidan Hutchinson, like, I can't even get through that without laughing at how, I mean, that would be ridiculous. And I can't fathom the Vikings going in, like JJ McCarthy in his rookie season, having Detroit come to town, and you have Micah Parsons on one end and Aidan Hutchinson on the other. Like, that is, I mean, that's the best pass rushing combo in the history of football. I can't think off the top of my head of it, if Hutchinson returns close to what he was.
That's a lot of first round picks and first round players to give up. At a certain point, I do not care.
No, the Lions right now. A lot of people discuss the Super Bowl window for Detroit, and that window is right now, and it's not going to close for another couple of years. If you have prime Micah Parsons added to that defense, I just can't see. I can't see any team in the NFC being comfortable. The Vikings have Darisaw and O'Neal, who are awesome tackles. It's like, what are you going to do? I mean, you're just going to get blown up. So I see it, but I'm trying to wonder what is the package that works there. Let's say you offer Terry and Arnold. I think if you're just doing one player, you got to have at least 2 first-round picks in there. And if you're Detroit, you do that.
If you're giving up Williams or Campbell, I'd probably move down to 1 first-round pick and throw in a couple day 2 or day 3
Jameson
picks.
Williams, Terry and Arnold in the first.
Scale. Yeah, and at a certain point, there's no doubt that will weaken the Lions' offense a little bit. I mean, Jameson Williams, we've talked about how important he could be for the Lions next year. You've got a new offense coming in. He's your breaking out wide receiver too. But come on. Middle linebackers and wide receiver twos are so much easier to get. Even very good ones are so much easier to get than Micah frickin' Parsons.
Would you trade Arnold, Jameson Williams, and a first for Micah Parsons if you were Detroit?
Without blinking, I would trade that.
Yeah, I think you have to do it. But
missing in terms of teams that have the pieces to put together the most competitive offer, I think the Lions are number 1.
If Terry and Arnold, given what we know about Terry and Arnold right now, like if Terry and Arnold were playing at the level of Cooper DeJean or Quinion Mitchell after his rookie season, then I don't think he could do that. That feels like a little too much, especially given the need, as we've said, for the secondary in Detroit. But based on the year Arnold had, you can pull the trigger there.
It was a very promising year, but he's not elite yet. It's funny, actually. The Lions traded up with the Cowboys to get Terry and Arnold, so maybe the Cowboys don't think very much of him.
And I'm enjoying just going through last season's sack numbers here. The Lions so they had Aidan Hutchinson at 36 in the league. He only played 5 games with 7.5 sacks. Their top sack leader was Zadarius Smith, who, remember, played a good portion of the year also with the Browns. He had 9, so he was 18th in the league. But Zadarius isn't there anymore. After those 2 dudes, so other than those guys, you have to go down to 118, where you have Aleem McNeil with 3.5 sacks. So that's this. I mean, that's another. Then you have Davenport back. You have DJ Reed. Like the D line is totally different this season because everybody was hurt. But the Lions were 23rd in sacks last season. Like they need a boost, and they will get it with everyone returning from injury. But as far as actual edge rushers go, after Hutchinson, there are a lot of questions. Davenport hasn't been healthy for a number of years now. Josh Pascal is someone that you like, but you want him. I mean, Micah Parsons would be more than a number 2 if you brought him in. So that's another one where that's the scariest to me. Pairing those two up. We're going to go through 2 more teams here. Are we staying in the NFC?
We are not staying in the NFC.
All right, let's get on the road.
We're doing a little bit of traveling. Of course, there's a lot of teams in the AFC that I think would be willing to trade for Micah Parsons. This is one that feels a little bit out of left field, but I think actually this is a rare situation where they can solve both each other's problems. The Cincinnati Bengals. Now, you might be saying, what are you talking about? The Cincinnati Bengals have an edge rusher at home, and they're not willing to sign him. Well, just like the classic meme where it's like we have McDonald's at home and your mom gives you like a crummy meatloaf. Trey Hendrickson is not Micah Parsons. The reason the Bengals have gotten into the struggle of Hendrickson is that he's older and they feel like they already have him under contract. The reason Micah Parsons has gotten this struggle of Dallas is not because Dallas isn't willing to pay him money, but because there's a personal grievance on both sides. The Bengals have changed how they operate a little bit. We saw of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They're willing to pay guys top dollar if they're young, productive, and willing to stick around in town for a little while. The Trey Hendrickson for Micah Parsons swap, obviously Cincinnati has to add draft capital to that, at least a first round pick, possibly more. But this is the rare trade where the Cowboys don't get much worse this season. They get future draft capital. They get to solve the headache they have with Micah Parsons and just start all over again.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I would envision it going is Micah would get over to Cincinnati and be like, all right, let's work on a contract. That they'd be like, oh, let's figure it out later. They're kind of similar to the Cowboys and they're kicking contracts down the road. Yes, they do give them, but I mean, obviously the Jamar Chase one cost them a lot of money. T. Higgins cost them a lot of money. But
at least Mike Brown is not going to come out there and start saying, oh, I don't know about Micah Parsons. He seems to get hurt a lot. I don't know if we should sign him. He's kind of a baby.
Well, he might say
Mike Brown will just sit back and let the GM make it happen.
I don't know. I mean, Mike Brown might come out and say, like, as long as Micah stays out of prison, we'll give him the contract with the Shamar Stewart situation hasn't gone particularly well. The Bengals.
The Shamar Stewart situation was also a lot crazier.
Yes. So
and they got it done at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, this one feels a lot more fantasy to me, but yes, if you actually do think about it, it makes sense is exactly the way you put it, with both teams exchanging elite pass rushers. One of them's a little bit younger, so you compensate with the extra draft picks. That all makes sense, and it's a fun one to think about. It's just the feasibility of it doesn't quite seem there. I think obviously the Bengals, I think, would be pumped about it, but if you were the Cowboys, would you want that?
Here's why you would do this if you're the Cowboys. If the situation with Parsons is unsalvageable, every trade that we've mentioned up until this point involves them acquiring promising young players. But the Cowboys are trying to compete right now. Trey Hendrickson, he's the same position. He's just as productive. This is your only opportunity, if you're Dallas, to trade Micah Parsons, get some real value back, and not be substantially worse this year or even next.
So yeah, he's had 17.5 sacks past 2 years. Let's say you get another 2 firsts. Would you do if you were the Bengals, Hendrickson and 2 firsts?
2 firsts is a lot, but 1 first and a day 2, I think, is a lot more reasonable.
Hendrickson, a first and a second. If I'm Dallas, I'd want a first and a second.
You can want a lot, and I understand that. Yeah. But again, I think there's no other team that's willing to trade an elite edge rusher right now except potentially Cincinnati.
Micah's 4 or 5 years younger.
Micah Parsons is 26. Trey Hendrickson is 30. Going to turn 31. It's like 4.5, I think.
4.5 years. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to stack it up against these other deals here, and if you were able to get a high day 2 pick, or like if you got a second, I think that would probably be the one I'd go with. Hendrickson, a first and a second. But if it's a third, I think I'm still leaning towards that. Obviously, it all comes down to how much draft capital you're willing to trade. Because I think but Hendrickson's by far the best player of all the dudes we've said.
Yeah, again, I think it's just an unusual situation where I think this is less likely to happen. You're right, but logically, it makes a lot of sense if these two situations are unsalvageable for both organizations to swap problems.
The thought of having two stubborn franchises just flip-flop the disgruntled player is really funny to me. Like
it actually does make sense.
It does to a degree, yes. To a degree, it makes sense, but it's also like, I mean, it would just be comical. Like it makes sense, but it's just so much funnier than it is realistic. I would say.